What's up, guys? We are live, going to be breaking down this UFC Vegas 4 live for you guys, going over Draftkings, going over betting, going over the weigh-ins, and giving my final thoughts on the card as a whole. Just to start, 10-fight slate. I remember the last time there was a 10-fight slate, ended up taking down both $1, $1.50 maxes, and ended up tying with like 80 people on each one. So honestly, I don't think that's going to happen this week. I think the winning lineup is probably going to be pretty unique. Because honestly, I can make a case for pretty much, all of these fighters on this card. But I'm going to get into a lot more in everything else. But we're going to start with the first fight. Like always, if you guys have any questions, just comment them throughout the video. I will get to you guys as soon as possible. But we will start with the first fight of the night. It's actually the second fight of the night. UFC keeps changing the bout order. At first, it was going to be Hanson and Frey, but now it is Salah and Griffin. So I've been preaching this the past couple months. The first fight of the night, it seems to be always ending up on the optimal lineup, no matter who it is. And honestly, I can see it happening here, especially with 10 fights on the card. There's almost going to be like 9 fights on the card. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but Sato's opponent, Brahimaj, he pulled out because he something with coronavirus. Ended up his corner man got it, but almost had 9 fights. But luckily, Jason Witt's coming in. But so the first fight of the night, I'll go over right now. It's Yusuf Zalal versus Jordan Griffin. Zalal opened up as an underdog, but now he's a slight favorite, and I can for sure see why. As for a DraftKings perspective on this, I like Zalal quite a bit. It seems like whoever's fighting Griffin seems to be doing well. Like TJ Brown was fighting Griffin. He was dominating Griffin. He scored like 60 points in like a minute, in like 5 minutes in the first round, and then like a minute into the second round. He had like 60 points racked up with takedowns, with a lot of volume, some passes. So Griffin seems to be getting dominated in a lot of fights until he gets a submission, and that's what worries me here with Zalal. So on both sides, I'll be playing both sides of this on DraftKings with a lean on Zalal. As for a bet, I kind of wanted to bet Zalal as an underdog. Now that he's a favorite, not too interested in it. Don't see Zalal finishing the fight. So if I was to bet it, maybe plus 185 is not a bad line for Zalal. But I do like him to win this fight as long as he does not get caught in a submission, which is a lot easier said than done. And it is the first fight of the night, so I have a pretty good feeling it's going to be on the optimal lineup. We've seen crazy fights get on the optimal lineup lately, but this fight for sure can, especially with Griffin's ability to get finishes and Zalal's ability to dominate Griffin the whole fight. As long as Zalal minds his P's and Q's, I think he can dominate this fight. 8,000, 8,200. You're going to need the winner of this fight, I believe. I think it's going to get on the optimal lineup. But yeah, let's look at the questions here. No questions. Is this thing working? All right. So anyway, yeah, I like Zalal quite a bit. Debating on playing him in cash. It's just there's always the danger of Zalal, getting submitted, and that really concerns me there. But I think he'll be fine. On the flip side of things, Griffin's going to be very, very low owned on DraftKings, I believe, because I've seen a lot of people on Zalal. So I don't think anybody's going to play Griffin, especially with it being the first fight of the night. And nobody likes to target that first fight of the night. So I will have, double the exposure on each side. Because I do see a path to victory where the Griffin can for sure be on the optimal lineup. And Griffin looked good at weigh-ins as well. He looked like the taller guy by a good margin. And Griffin hasn't been finished since like 2014. Very tough kid. But yeah, I like Zalal, but at the same time, we'll be playing some Griffin. All right. Boser came in 10 pounds lighter at 235 and looks great. Yeah, he looked really good. He looked really fit. Was actually really surprised how good he looked on the scales. Sato inside the distance. Yeah, I'll get into the odds in that, but the odds just came out for Sato inside the distance, and I believe it's plus 120 right now, which is pretty insane because I'll get to in a second, but Witt's been finishing every single one of his losses. So Lau will keep it standing. I think that will be smart of him. I think he has a nice advantage on the feet. Griffin does have the power advantage, but I think he can also get takedowns whenever he wants. Griffin has a 35% takedown defense. I think he can get him down to will, and as long as he minds his P's and Q's on the ground, I think he can win a comfortable decision. Who is going to be the sleeper on this card? There's a lot of potential for there to be a lot of sleepers. That's why I think the winning lineup on DraftKings will not be tied with 1 million people, because I can see a lot of upsets. You'll just see throughout this card in my final breakdown, like there's a lot of live dogs here, whether it be, Kyle Daukaus, Mickey Gall, they're all live, believe it or not. Yes, you should try playing the 20 max. That's something I like to do every week. I also like the 150 max as well. Salah backs up too much. I don't think that will work with Griffin. Yeah, you're probably right, but he is good at, backing up, sticking and moving. I think he is the better technical fighter than Griffin on the feet. And like I said, if it's not going well on the feet, I think he can get a takedown whenever he wants. All right, so next fight here, Hanson versus Jinyu Frey. This was supposed to be the first fight of the night, and I wish it was, because first of all, nobody's going to play this fight. Like, these girls are atom weights, moving up a weight class. Hanson has fought up a weight class before. This is Frey's first time not fighting an atom weight, which is really interesting. Frey looked pretty good on the scales, as did Hanson. Hanson minus 160. I was watching tape on both of these girls, and I was far more impressed with Hanson. I know she's 20 years old. She's going to be at a 15-year age difference. I think if someone finishes this fight, it's going to be Hanson. Frey's been knocked out twice. Frey's also never been submitted, so maybe Hanson lands some ground and pound and gets her out of there. But as for DraftKings, I don't think Frey has a DraftKings friendly style. She throws very minimal strikes at a time. She tries to keep it at range, and I don't think Hanson's going to let her do that. I think Hanson's going to try to get on the inside right away as soon as possible and get takedowns. And I think Hanson has the more DraftKings friendly style. I know she's 8,500, but nobody's going to play either of these girls, and that's why I'm interested in both sides, especially on a 10-fight slate. If this was a 12-fight slate, probably play a little bit of Hanson, because I do think she has the more upside. But Hanson, she can get takedowns. She can get advances. I've seen Frey taken down times before. I've seen Frey dominated for a whole round on the ground as well against lower-level competition. I think Hanson's very, very good on the mat. Would not be surprised if she's submitted Frey. Frey's never been submitted, but maybe land a ground-and-pound victory as well. Don't think Frey has the power to knock out Hanson, especially coming up a weight class. Honestly, this is probably going to go to decision with a slight lean on Hanson. As for betting it, I'm not touching Hanson at minus 160. Probably going to play some minimal DraftKings right here with some Hanson and Frey. I want to be overweight to the field, because I do think this has potential to maybe break the slate, more so on Hanson's side, because Hanson does have the grappling ability, which is very DraftKings friendly. So other than that, not going to be the most exciting fight, but Hanson does have the more upside. But and there aren't many underdogs on this card that I really can see winning. I know there's potential to be a lot of upsets, but honestly, I'm only picking like 2 underdogs to win. So say no underdogs win and Frey wins a decision, scores like 65-70, that could be enough to get on the optimal lineup. If no other dogs win and Frey, nobody's going to play Frey. There's no way. She's probably going to be between 10 to 15% ownership, maybe slightly more than that. Hanson probably low 20s. And on a 10-fight slate, that's going to be really low. So I am interested in that fight. I was a little bit more interested when it was the first fight of the night, but you're going to put $10,000 on Hooker. I wish you the best of luck. If it hits, that would be huge. Mike Perry, Dustin, Greene, Allen. Thoughts on Daukaus as a punt? I'll get to that in a second. I do think he's live. I think the line's a little bit off. But yeah, I'll get to it in a second. Hanson could win, but I think Frey's experience. Yeah, Frey has a bunch of experience, but age for sure. But she only has like 4 or 5 more fights than Hanson on her record. So looking at it that way, she doesn't have too much more experience, but that age gap is absolutely insane. So you're right. Frey's experience can for sure come into play. Yeah, Frey was a champion before in Invicta. She's not bad. She's just not an exciting fighter. I don't think she has a DraftKings friendly style. Yep, atomweight champion. Won $6 in my first DFS. Congrats. Hopefully you keep it going. Yeah, I don't really see it. I think I've seen her get knocked out a couple times. I don't think the power is going to translate much going up a weight class. I mean, these girls are small. I don't think the power is really there. But I mean, she could be dangerous, especially with Hanson not having the best striking ability. It could be dangerous for Hanson, but I just don't see it. Edmund has sparred both Perry and Gall. He's dropped Perry from the body. I asked him who wins. He said Gall, round 1, rear naked choke. He's my close friend from high school. That's really interesting. I'll get to it in a second, but yeah, that fight's really interesting. I'm going to have a lot of that fight on both sides. If you guys have not watched the Mike Perry interviews, go watch them. It's a fun time. Very entertaining. Mike Perry. I don't know if he's being serious. If he's being serious, I feel bad for him, but very entertaining stuff on the interview. Do you think Worthy's going to get another KO? Honestly, I can see it, and that's why I'll be playing both sides of the fight. But I just think Pena is the much better fighter, and it's not even close. But Worthy does have that power. Love how you break down the numbers, man. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. Thought of playing Sato and backing up a potential loss with a small play on Griffin via sub at plus 400 as insurance. Yeah, just looking at it now, Griffin by submission is plus 335. If you said you got it at plus 400, that's not bad at all. Yeah, don't mind a shot on that, because if he does win, that's going to be his path to victory, a submission. I don't see him really outworking Salah. The only path to victory I see for Griffin is him getting a submission. So yeah, I don't mind that at all. Won 550 last week on DFS. Last week, looking for big bucks this week. Yeah, I had a decent week. I finished like 6th. My cash lineup hit, my single entry lineups hit, but it would have had a monster night if Max would have won, and if Camacho would have won as well. Two pretty big upsets there. I hope Gall wins. I can't stand Perry. Yeah, a lot of people are rooting against Perry and picking against Perry, but we'll get into it in a second. But I don't really think Perry's going to lose this. But anything can happen. All right. Thank you, Randy. All right, let's get into the next fight of the night. This fight, I was up at like 4 o'clock, like finishing up some research, and I see that Sato's opponent, Brahimaj, pulled out due to the cornerman having COVID. And then right away, replacement Jason Witt. So I had to get into it right away. Watched some tape on Witt, looked at all the numbers, got all the numbers in my sheet. I noticed right off the bat that he's 17-5. He has been finished in all 5 of his losses. As for his style, he's not bad. He's not bad at all. If you would have asked me who has a better chance of winning, James versus Camacho or Witt versus Sato, I'd say Witt, and I'd say it pretty easily. So Witt, what he's going to do, at least what I've seen on film, he's going to come forward. He's going to throw multiple strikes at once, which is concerning, due to his gas tank, because he is coming on like 1 day notice. So that's something to look at there. He has some wrestling. He has some submissions on his record, but he doesn't have good wrestling, in my opinion. I don't know if he's going to be able to get Sato down. And when he was striking, he was throwing 5 shots at a time. He was willing to give 5 to eat 1 or 2 hard ones. He took some hard ones in some of the fights I watched, clean ones. And if he takes those clean, hard shots against Sato, he's going down. We've seen him knocked out 3 times before. And Sato hits hard. Sato is a finisher. So 8,400, I think, is a very good play. Said the same thing about Camacho, though. Like, Camacho was an amazing play last week at 8,000. Camacho was 65% owned. I ended up going 70%. 70% of my lineups were done, and after like 20 seconds. But the thing here is, Witt's not really a finisher on the feet. He's finished 18% of his fights by knockout. So don't really see him knocking out Sato. He does bring a lot of pace and volume, but if he does, he does fight with his hands down a lot, which is not a good sign at all versus Sato. So the line is minus 260 on Sato. I might be looking at making that a parlay piece there. I've only made one bet so far. This card is kind of tough for betting, especially with parlays, because a lot of these fights can honestly go either way. But I like Sato quite a bit. If Witt does get Sato down, which I'm finding a hard time seeing him do that, Witt can get takedowns if the opportunity is there. I just think he's going to have a tough time getting Sato down. But if he can get a takedown, I think Sato could be in some trouble. But how much gas do you really think Witt has coming on a day notice? So Minus 260 is a good line, and also plus 120. Sato to win inside the distance. I don't think it's going to stay there for long. So if you guys want to take a shot on that, that line's going to, jump quick, I believe. Once people see that Witt's been finished 5 times in his 5 losses, and Sato's a finisher, like that line doesn't make sense to me. I don't even know if it's available, but it just came out. But yeah, we still don't have the KO prop or the sub prop. Maybe the KO prop gives us some better odds on Sato there, but I like Sato on DraftKings. Going to have an uncomfortable amount of him, but on the flip side, I'm going to have some Witt at low ownership. Nobody's going to play him. Maybe they do because of what James did last week, but this feels like a really good spot for Sato here. So I like him quite a bit. I liked him against Brahamash as well, and I like him here. All right. Yeah, I think Perry should roll. It's just a lot of question marks surrounding Perry. Yeah, Witt is coming off 4 straight wins. He's won like 9 out of his last 10, but of course, you got to factor in the level of competition. Like 5 fights ago, he did get knocked out. He's not bad. He's not bad at all. I think that's why the line is close, but I just think Sato is going to cause a lot of problems for him. Gall by submission plus 500. Gall got Gracie black belt recently. Perry's 2-5 in his last 7 fights, top 10. If I was to bet Gall, honestly, that plus 500 does look pretty good by submission. I have it at plus 500 as well. Yeah. If I was to bet Gall, I probably would do it by submission because I think that's his only path to victory. Don't see Gall winning a decision. Don't see Gall knocking out Perry. So yeah, Gall by submission. Maybe Gall in round 1 as well. That's when Gall's going to be most fresh. That would be a line to look at as well. I picked James versus Camacho, which I bet it. Yeah, it was tough. Camacho's obviously the way better fighter, the more experienced fighter, but James came in there and threw caution to the wind, and it worked out. It worked out really well for James, and luckily I had 15% James to hedge my massive ownership on Camacho, so I was overweight on the field to James, which was pretty cool, but losing 70% of your lineups is always awful. Yeah, I'm taking Sato here too. Honestly, I was very impressed with Witt, but I just think it's a bad matchup for him. I really do. His path to victory is he's more of a decision guy. He's won about 50% of his fights by decision. It would be taking down Sato and wearing him out, and it's going to be pretty hard to do that on like a day's notice. Witt or Sato, who would you put your money on? Probably Sato for sure. Probably wouldn't touch Witt, especially at these odds. If it did get wider, maybe take a look at Witt because I do expect it to get a little bit wider than that. I'm new to DFS, but a huge MMA fan. Do you know of a free lineup optimizer for a newbie to learn on? Thanks. I don't know. I use Fantasy Cruncher. It is like $20 a month. It's not bad. That's just what I use. I think it's pretty easy to get my projections in there and all that. But there's plenty out there that you can look around for. All right, next fight here. We got Sean Woodson versus Juliana Rosa. Sean Woodson, honestly, is probably my favorite play on the slate. Minus 420, the biggest favorite on the slate. Minus 165 to win inside the distance, which is crazy that he has a better inside the distance prop than guys like Perry, than guys like Allen, than guys like Greene. But he does. And that's because Rosa's been finished 4 times by knockout. Rosa's very chinny, leaves his head up in the air. Woodson's not much of a power puncher, but he will bring a lot of volume. Very good striker. He was like 43-3 as a boxer, like very good boxing background. This guy's very, very good. Going against a Rosa who got cut by the UFC, but he's back. Can't complain with the line at all. Minus 420, that's fine. If I was to bet it, maybe throw it in a parlay. If you guys are doing more than 2 guys in a parlay, minus 165. I don't like that line because I do think there's an opportunity where Woodson does win a decision. Like I said, he's not much of a power guy, but I am expecting him to finish Rosa, but I can also see where he just puts it on him for 3 rounds and wins a decision. As for DraftKings, I love this play. I'll have an insane amount of Woodson, a very good amount of Woodson here, 8,800. I like that price a lot. Like I said, the biggest favorite on the card, the biggest inside the distance line, a very good fighter against a fighter that shouldn't be in the UFC right now. Yeah, I like Woodson all day. I think he can hit value at the 8,800 price. Whether he finishes the fight, whether he lands, multiple strikes, maybe gets a knockdown. But I like Woodson for cash. I like him at GPPs. Was messing around with the lineups, and I had about like 65-70% Woodson. So I'm going to be overweight to the field. I think he'll be high owned, probably like 45%, 50% maybe. But I'll definitely be overweight to the field on Woodson. Would be shocked if Rosa won here. But I said the same thing last week about Camacho. But Rosa, is not going to come out here and, try to take Woodson's head off. And Woodson has a very good chin as well. So don't see really a path to victory for Rosa besides maybe a fluke knockout, fluke head kick, something like that. But yeah, I like Woodson quite a bit. Might be looking to parlay him. Like I mentioned earlier, this card is not really a parlay card because you've got fights that can go either way, but don't mind Sato in a parlay, honestly, at those odds. I think it will change. I think it will get wider, but Woodson, I think he's a safe parlay piece as well. And there's not many safe parlay pieces on this card, in my opinion. I will be talking Lins versus Boser next. Do you think if Jan has enough wrestling experience to win? I'll get into that fight in a little bit, but I don't think he has the gas tank to go, a couple minutes into the fight. Jan, just if you guys saw the weigh-ins yet or the face-offs, go check that out. It was very concerning if you guys are picking Villante there. What underdogs do you feel most comfortable with? I'll get more into it at the end of the video, but right now, Salah was an underdog. He's an underdog on DraftKings. I'm comfortable with him as long as he does not get submitted. I think he can pretty much dominate this fight. I was looking at, Villante before I saw the weigh-ins because it is heavyweight. Anything can happen. But after I saw the weigh-ins, I'm not interested in Villante anymore, and I'll get to that in a second. Dan Hooker for DraftKings, great play. Other than that, Boser is okay. I think he can win a decision with some volume, but not much upside there. Other than that, honestly, there's not many underdog plays that I'm really interested in here. Woodson by KO is -120. Yeah, if you wanted to bet Woodson by KO rather than inside the distance, it'll get a little bit better price there. He's obviously not going to submit a Rosa. It would be by knockout. So -120 is not bad if you do feel that Woodson's going to win inside the distance, which I honestly think it can go either way. Is anyone on this card going to get a KO in the first round? I think there is potential for that for sure. Like I think Mike Perry can have potential to get a first round knockout. Greene, Pena, Worthy, both those guys can get a first round knockout. Woodson, Sato. I think there is going to be a lot of finishes on this fight. Just looking at the fight does not go to decision lines right here. Lots of fights are favored to end inside the distance, so I think it's going to be a fun night of fights. Super high on Boser here. Yeah, especially seeing those weigh-ins, he looked very, very good, very, very fit. And I don't know if that's going to hurt him or help him. We'll have to see on fight night, but I'll get into that fight in a second. But yeah, I'm really interested to see that fight. Lins used to be shredded, definitely a victim of USADA. Yes, for sure, for sure. He looks so much different compared to the tape to when we see him now or when we saw him versus Arlovsky. He looks so much different. And obviously he fought a lot different too. So that's something to look at there. Yeah, for sure. He's off the juice for sure. Villante is pregnant. Yeah, that's what it looked like. I don't know if he was, pushing out his stomach on purpose, but that's sure is what it looked like. Hit a parlay with Josh Emmett, Muhammad, and Blades last week. Very nice. I was on Josh Emmett as well. I was on Lauren Murphy. Got a lot of underdogs right last week, so that was pretty cool. Poirier and Hooker in cash. Very good question. Honestly, if people didn't do that in cash, I'd be very, very surprised. Like both of these fighters in cash should be 100% owned each, but that's not going to be the case. But yeah, I'm for sure, no question about it. Hooker and Poirier in cash for sure. For a couple reasons, I think this fight can last, long enough to where they both can get lots of volume. If Hooker comes in here and knocks out Poirier early, you'll have the Hooker ownership right there. But I think it will go longer. I'll get into it a little bit, but I do think it will go long enough to where they both can rack up that volume. And honestly, I think it'd be pretty silly not to play Hooker and Poirier in cash. Maybe you do it as like an ownership thing to try to get off some of the chalk, but I'm for sure doing it. Like no question about it. Do you think Hooker can actually beat Poirier? I'm not picking him to win, but I do think he could, yeah. Greene, Pena, Perry, Poirier, parlay time. Yeah, I don't mind that. I'm personally probably not going to do a parlay this week. If I do, probably something maybe 2-fighter, maybe 3-fighter. I just don't. It's hard to trust Mike Perry, and it's hard to probably trust Pena too. Woodson, Boser, Worthy. Yeah, I'm with you on Woodson and Boser there. Let's see here. Worthy, a live dog. He is. Personally, I like Pena a lot. I'll get to that in a second, but he's a live dog for sure. Love from Miami. Love your channel. Just subscribe. Top 3 fights going inside the distance. Thank you. And top 3 fights looks like Hooker, Perry, and Greene are top 3. Looks like. Let's see here. Yeah, he could for sure. He has that power. Personally, I'll get into it a little bit. I don't think he's the best fighter, but we've seen him beat a -1,000 favorite in Devontae Smith, which was awful. It was awful. I had so much Smith that was awful. I couldn't believe it when he knocked out Smith, because Smith was like -1,000. I thought Smith had it in the bag before the fight even started, but that wasn't the case. Pena's not a finisher. Yeah, he's finished like 2 out of his 5 or 6 fights in the UFC. He does have some good submissions. I do think that's where it could come into play against Worthy here. And also Worthy is very, very chainy. Worthy's been knocked out like 5 times. Pena much bigger, yes. Let's see here. All right. Okay. So we're gonna into the next fight here. Lins versus Boser. All right, so Boser opened up the underdog. It's now at a pick'em. Boser was even a favorite at one point, but the line closed. I saw an article where Lins was talking about possibly taking Boser down. I didn't know this until a couple days ago, but Lins is the black belt in BJJ, which is very interesting. But like some of you guys in the chat were talking about, Lins does not look like he did in PFL at all. Looks like a whole different fighter. And Boser looks like he had the camp of his life. Boser looked like he dropped some pounds. He put on some muscle. Boser looked fantastic. And like I said, I don't know if that's going to hurt him or help Boser, because maybe Lins is able to get Boser down a little bit better this time. As for DraftKings, just looking at right here, Lins plus 244 to finish inside the distance compared to Boser. Boser's not going to finish this fight. That's just not something he does. Boser's not a finisher. If he wins, it's going to be based on volume. It's going to be based on his kicks, staying on the outside, which is going to be hard with a smaller cage, but I still think he can do it and use that length and reach and out volume Lins. I do think that's possible, because I don't think Lins has the best volume. All through Lins's career, he hasn't had the best volume. He's been relying on the knockout shot, which is why I'm picking Boser here, because Boser has a steel chin. Boser hasn't been knocked out since years ago. One of his very first fights, it was in the first 20 seconds. Other than that, he's a steel chin. I don't see Lins knocking him out. But it is interesting though, because Lins did talk about using his BJJ, and maybe he does get Boser down, maybe he doesn't and submits him. So that could happen. As for DraftKings, I will have both sides here. It is heavyweight. No matter how boring the fight will probably be, fight is plus 160 to go to decision. Plus 160 to go end inside the distance, which is the second worst fight on the slate in those odds, with behind Hanson and Frey. So I don't think people are going to target this fight. I don't really think people are going to target Lins either. And I think Lins, if there is a finish, it's probably going to be Lins, no matter how durable Boser is. So it is heavyweight. I will be targeting this fight, just not in love with it. But yeah, I like both sides. Boser, I think you can hit value with a volume-based decision. Lins, if he does go for takedowns, don't see it, honestly, but you never know. Maybe he does get Boser down, or maybe Lins catches him on the inside. Not likely, but as we know, anything can happen there. Not a fight I'm too interested in. I think it's going to be probably one of the worst fights on the slate as well. Any chance Kyle Daukaus can win by submission? Yeah, Daukaus has finished like what 90% of his fights by submission. I think it's going to be tough to submit Brendan Allen, but it is possible there. Pena is so much bigger. Yeah, a little bit. I think he has like 1 inch in height, or like 2 inches in height and like 1 inch in reach. But yeah, he's usually a lot bigger than most of his opponents, so this is kind of different for him actually. The extra weight off should help Boser with cardio. Yeah, I agree 100%. It should help him hopefully be able to throw a little bit more. Dustin KO, Gall submission. I can see both a scenario where both those happen. Just probably more likely the Dustin KO. Pena only has 1 inch reach. Worthy's much bigger physically. Yeah, Worthy is pretty big. I have a bunch. I have a hunch Boser wins this match. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. All right, where are we at? What you got to take into account is Worthy is 6-0 at lightweight. Every time before that, he got knocked out. He was fighting at a lower weight class. Yes, you're right. He has not been knocked out at this weight class. So it could be, it could be a thing where, that moving up a weight class does help him here. So, yeah, it's something to look at there. Hey, friend, do you show your bet slips at all to see what amounts you bet? Yeah, just check my Twitter, DFS_numbers. You can follow me on there. But we'll go with the next fight. This seems to be a very popular fight throughout the chat. So, Luis Pena versus Kama Worthy. Watching tape on Worthy, even prior to the Smith fight, where he did knock out Smith in that first round, I was not impressed at all. He seems like a guy who either is killed or does the killing, does the knocking out, or gets knocked out himself. He's been finished 6 times. He's never lost by decision. Honestly, I think Pena's the more talented fighter by a good margin. Honestly, I've been a Pena hater. I really have. I've not been too high on Pena his whole career. Not a big fan of the guy, but in this spot, for some reason, I think he should be a bigger favorite. Like, imagine this. Imagine, Worthy never knocked out Villante Smith. Like, Villante Smith was -1,000 against Worthy. Imagine if he never knocked out Villante Smith. Like, Pena would be -500 here. He really would. If you look at the tape, like, Pena is better everywhere. He's better everywhere. It's just Worthy has that power. He has the power advantage. But Pena is tough. Pena has the chin. I give the durability to Pena. But Worthy has that really weird power as well. So, on DraftKings, 8,900. I do think that Pena wants to put on a show here. In an interview, Pena actually said he wants to stand in the middle of the octagon and bang with Kama Worthy, which, if that was true, I would probably be loading up on a lot of Kama Worthy, but I think he's just messing around there. They told that to Worthy, and Worthy did not believe it. I don't believe it either. That'd be a really bad game plan. I think if Pena wants to win this fight convincingly, take down Worthy and get a submission. I think Pena has a very, very underrated ground game, and I don't like Worthy's ground game at all. But yeah, if Pena does stand and bang with Worthy, it's going to be a long night for Pena. I think Pena is the more talented striker, but it only takes 1 strike, and Worthy has that 1 strike power. So for sure on DraftKings, I'll have some Worthy. I'll have some Pena as well, because I think there's some really good upside with Pena. And I don't think many people are going to play him, because you do have Mike Perry around him. You have Woodson around him, Woodson's going to be probably the most chalkiest play on the slate, or one of the top 3 at least. So, Pena's right in that middle range where nobody's going to play. So I like him for that reason. I think he's going to be lower owned than the guys around him. I think there is finish upside. Pena's not really a finisher, but I do think he can get a submission here, or even outclass Worthy really bad and, just put it on him. We've seen Pena score over 115 twice in his career. And this is the kind of opponent where I think he can do that again. I just don't think Worthy's good at all. I think he has one thing, and that's power. And that can go a long way, but it's hard to pick Worthy just based off he has power and, he's going to land that shot. And I do think the line could be wider. As for a parlay piece, I probably wouldn't, because Pena does leave his chin up in the air sometimes, and he's there to be hit, but has a good chin. But, anything can happen. Fight doesn't go to decision, -155. That line is really interesting, because I do think this fight is a really good chance of ending inside the distance. Worthy has never lost by a decision, so that's something to take into account there. So minus 155, that's a great line. Might have to place a bet on that. That's insane. And on the flip side, Worthy can put Pena's lights out. So yeah, I like that line quite a bit. Worthy by KO plus 420. Pena by submission plus 250. Nothing too interesting there, but yeah, I like this fight a lot from a DraftKings perspective. All right. Worthy will get subbed. Yeah, I can see that for sure, but Pena needs to come out here and take him down. I wouldn't really mess around in the pocket with Worthy. I'd stick to the outside, try to take Worthy down. I think he can. I really do. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Let's see. If you had to bet any one fighter highest confidence with Poirier, who would it be? I mean, there's Pena, but there's the chance he does get knocked out. There is probably Sato at those odds is really nice. Maurice Greene, a guy we'll get to in a second. So probably Maurice Greene, and we'll transition into that right now after this question here. I might take Witt. Sato looked kind of drained at weigh-ins. Yeah, Sato doesn't always look the best at weigh-ins. He does cut a good amount of weight, but he'll be rehydrated and everything. Looked like he was in decent shape. So, yeah, but Witt coming off a day's notice is concerning there. All right, next we will get to the fight of Maurice Greene versus Jean Villante. If you guys have not watched the weigh-ins, weigh-in highlights, face-offs with Jean Villante, I encourage you to do that as soon as possible. I sent the picture into my Discord chat. Villante looked awful. It looked like he hasn't trained in months. It looked like he moved up to heavyweight, didn't train, didn't put in any work. I believe he trains out of New York, and we know New York with the situations that are going on, it's hard to get training with all the, they were on lockdown for a while, lots of cases of the virus going around there. It was probably hard to get training in New York, and we can definitely tell he looked awful. He really did. Greene looked great, and Greene's been making improvements fight after fight. I know he's lost his last two, but he's making improvements. Of course, he's going to lose to, Alexei Oleinik. I had Oleinik there. Greene has a good ground game, but of course, nobody has the ground game of Oleinik in this heavyweight division. And then Sergey Pavlovich, very, very good striker there. No shame in that loss as well. But I like Greene here a lot. Like, just before I did any research, I liked Greene a lot. After doing more research, I like Greene a lot more. And that line of minus 210 is very, very tempting. Ever since the weigh-ins, the line has came down on Greene, which I don't know what people are looking at. It just doesn't make sense. Villante probably has 2 minutes of gas, 2-3 minutes of gas. And if he doesn't knock out Greene, which I think is going to be hard because Villante is coming up a weight class, don't think that power is going to translate. I like Greene a lot. I like him in cash. I like him in GPPs. I think there's upside to finish. Greene's not much of a finisher, but I think he can finish Villante here because I think Villante is going to be dead tired if this gets out of the first round and Greene can start pouring it on him. I even think Greene can maybe even take down Villante and submit him at some point because I just don't see Villante, lasting in this fight. So Greene is one of my most favorite plays on DraftKings. And as a bet, I'm looking at him for a potential parlay piece. Might even play him straight if the line comes down anymore. If it gets to minus 190, I might have to just play that straight because that is insane. That is insane. You guys really need to go watch those weigh-ins. It is very, very bad for Jean Villante. If he won this fight, I'll be very surprised. And if he does, Greene probably needs to leave the UFC because that'd be 3 in a row, and that's not a good look at all. But yeah, I like Greene quite a bit. Villante always looks sluggish. I don't know how he's in the UFC. Yeah, but he looked so much. I've never seen Villante look this bad. I know this is the first time at heavyweight in a while, but it was bad. It was very bad. Villante looked out of shape. Yeah, it was awful. It was awful. And it made me, like Greene. It made my confidence go up in Greene 20 times more than it already was because I liked Greene a lot, but I was thinking I'll play some Villante at low ownership. This is a heavyweight fight, but now I'm not even so sure I'll be playing that much Villante on DraftKings now. But from the DraftKings side of it, Maurice Greene, 8,600, right in the mid-range. I do think he can finish this fight, whether it's in the second or third round at the worst-case scenario. On the flip side of things, Villante, this is a heavyweight fight. Villante is technically a heavyweight here. He sure did look like it at weigh-ins. We've seen Greene knocked out before. I just don't really see it happening, but nobody's going to play Villante, I don't think. If they do, it's probably going to be really low ownership, probably around 15%, 20% might be pushing it. I know it's a 10-fight slate, but might get up to 20%. Going to be very, very low owned, especially for a heavyweight fight. So if you want to take some shots, play some lineups on Villante, don't mind that at all. But Greene is, I'm going to have a lot of Greene, probably like around like 45. I think I had like 45% when I was messing around with lineups. But after seeing weigh-ins, I might go up to like 50% Greene, which is crazy for a heavyweight fight. But it just only made my confidence going up seeing Villante at the weigh-ins. All right. Let's see here. How's Greene gas? Does he last? Yeah, Greene has a decent gas tank. He really does. And he looked in really, really great shape. He moved camps to Jackson Wink, so he's only going to improve his game as it goes forward. I've seen improvements fight after fight with Greene. Lots of good stuff. I know he's lost 2 in a row, but I do see those improvements. No shame in his last 2 losses at all. This is a big step down in competition from guys like Alexei Oleinik and Pavlovich as well. Who is your favorite GPP option under 8K? I think he's going to lose, but Dan Hooker is a great GPP option. Of course, you got, let's see, Salah is 8,000. Frey, nobody's going to have her. I think that's a really low-owned GPP option. Worthy is a decent pump play, but honestly, there's not much. I think a lot of these favorites are going to end up winning, but one of these underdogs are going to win, and I think it's going to be a low ownership one of them. So let's see here. Okay. Villante going to KO Greene, and then we'll rub his belly like Roy Nelson. LOL, just kidding. What? I hope not, because I'll have a lot of Greene, but you're right, it is heavyweight. We've seen Greene knocked out before. Villante does have power, so I will have some Villante. Don't go out there and fade Villante. It's heavyweight. You've got to play both sides no matter who it is. So yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. Greene's got a better gas than Villante, and he's more versatile and way bigger. I agree 100%. What's up, Chris? Thank you for that. Villante looks like he's there for a paycheck. Yeah, he does. He does. That's what I was saying. He looks like he's there for a paycheck. Looked awful. He looked absolutely awful. All right, next fight we have Brendan Allen versus Kyle Daukaus. This fight scares me a lot. It scares me so much because Kyle Daukaus is live. Kyle Daukaus is a finisher. I believe he's finished like 90% of his fights by submission. I just double check that. Finish rate, 89%. Yeah, he's finished 89% of his fights by submission. And I think it's going to be hard to submit Allen. That's why I think he's a minus 310 favorite. Allen's probably the better fighter pretty much everywhere. But, oh, crap. Yeah, but Allen's probably the better fighter everywhere. I just think that there is that danger of him getting submitted at some point, and that's why it just really worries me, because Daukaus is very dangerous, and Allen is going to definitely play into his game as well. So I'd be very cautious with Brendan Allen. I think he rolls here. I really do. But I will have some Daukaus. I was getting about a 15% Kyle Daukaus when I was making my lineups. This fight is minus 245. Fight does not go to decision, which is the third best on the whole slate. So I do think you're going to need this fight one way or another. I know Allen is 9,200, but I'd play some Daukaus for sure as like a pump play, because I like Allen a lot. It's just I have a weird feeling about this fight, because Allen is going to play right into his game plan. Allen's not going to strike with Daukaus the whole time. If they do, honestly, the striking isn't too far away from each other. The striking is pretty close. I just think Allen's the more experienced fighter, better overall, but Daukaus is very, very dangerous. And Daukaus looked good on the scales as well. It seems like Daukaus has been training. So just have a bad feeling about it. I'm picking Allen to win, but I will have some Daukaus on DraftKings. Looking at the odds here, Daukaus by submission, 525. Would like it to be a little bit wider than that. Yeah, I do think this fight's going to finish. So yeah, I like Brendan Allen. I have a good amount of them, but I will have some Daukaus just to hedge there on Brendan Allen. All right. Allen versus Daukaus fight of the year. Fight of the year. I'm calling it. It could be a really good fight. I think Poirier Hooker is going to be fight of the night, though. I'd be surprised if it wasn't for sure. There's a lot of fights that have good potential to be fight of the night, but Poirier Hooker is the one that I think is going to be fight of the night. All right. Allen nearly got submitted by Kevin Holland. Kinda. I mean, Kevin Holland's a black belt. Kevin Holland has really good BJJ, and Allen ended up submitting him. So yeah, I have nothing but good things from Allen since I've seen him in the UFC. I was not sold on him, and now I'm sold on him very highly. But I do think this is a dangerous fight for him, and I do think he's taking Daukaus lightly. I did see an interview with Brendan Allen, and it seemed like he was looking right past Daukaus, and that's the same thing Roosevelt Roberts did to Jim Miller last week. Roberts was looking right past Jim Miller, and look what happened. So, do I play FanDuel? Yeah, I do play some FanDuel, but not much. I'm mostly DraftKings. All right, co-main event. Lots of controversy on this fight. Mike Perry versus Mickey Gall. Was having a great time, watching some Mike Perry interviews. He was talking about his training camp. He said that he was, watching some Netflix and stuff. He was going on vacation basically for his training camp, going swimming on vacation. Sounds like that. Said he was eating good, eating a lot of steak, eating healthy. He said he's going to have his girlfriend in his corner. I don't know if that's going to be true. It's going to be interesting to see if he does have only his girlfriend in his corner. I think that'd be very funny, and I hope we mic her up. I hope we mic her up, and I hope that'd be very entertaining to see what she has to say in his corner. But in all seriousness, Mike Perry should roll here. I think he's the far superior fighter. I know he's on a decline. He really is, but even on a decline, I think he's the far superior fighter. It's just his IQ and where he's at, mentally at this point that has me, kind of concerned for this pick here because. If he's being serious, like I think something's wrong with him for sure. Like it's very concerning. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he went out here and tried to take down Mickey Gall, something crazy like that. I would not be surprised if that happened because it seems like he hasn't had the best training camp. On the scales, he didn't look the best. He didn't, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight. I'll probably have a bunch of ownership to this fight. I was thinking about like 50% Perry, like 20% Gall, because I do think Perry wins this pretty convincingly, but there is that chance that Perry just, shoots for a takedown and gets guillotined like right away. Like very concerned for Mike Perry and where he's at, but he seems confident. He does. He said he's going to come out here and knock out Gall in that first round, and I do think that can happen. Honestly, I love the line of -295. It's just the question marks that surround it are taking me off of it. I would love to throw him in a parlay, but it's just really hard to after watching the interviews. Just all the stuff going on, him not having a training camp, him basically training with his girlfriend. His girlfriend was holding pads for him. It's just not a good look. So I think it will drive some ownership off of Perry with all this stuff going around though. So I do think Gall is going to be like insanely owned for, over what he should be. I think Gall is going to be probably 25% owned, which is, a lot more than a guy down here usually would be. And I think Perry will probably be like, maybe high 30s because he has a great play, but I think people are going to be kind of off of him because of all the stuff going around. But that just makes me want to play him a lot more. And I do have a lot of confidence in Perry. It's just in the back of my head, like I wouldn't be surprised if like Perry did, mess up, come in here and mess up. So I'd be cautious with it. I wouldn't bet it. But as for a DraftKings play, like it has so much potential to be a really good play on DraftKings. All right. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Worthy. I think he has pretty much a puncher's chance. I think Pena is the better fighter by far, but Worthy has that power, and Pena is very durable. But Worthy does have that sneaky power, and he could catch him. Picking Allen is a trap to me. Yeah, I feel the same way when I first saw the fight and looked into it and watched tape on Daukaus. Daukaus is no slouch. Daukaus is very, very good, and these two match up very well. I don't really get the line of -310. It does seem like a trap for sure. That's why we'll have some Daukaus. Any of these fights you see going down, like Justin James versus Frank Camacho, I sure hope not. The best I can compare that to would be like Julian Rosa coming out here and knocking out Sean Woodson, because Woodson's going to be like 60% owned. That's the best I can compare it to. I hope that doesn't happen. All right. With that said, let's get to the last fight of the night. Probably going to stop around like an hour. I know it's a short slate, 10 fights. It was almost 9. Thank goodness it is 10 because 9 would be awful. But Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. I'm going to have 100% ownership on this fight. I like Dustin Poirier. I think he's going to win, and I did place a massive bet on Dustin Poirier. I did, and that's the only bet I have so far. Like I said, there are other lines I'm looking at, like Sato to win inside the distance plus 120, and maybe a parlay. But Dustin Poirier is the only bet I have so far, and it is probably my biggest bet of the year on Dustin Poirier. Minus 220. I thought it'd get a little bit wider. It did get up to like minus 230, so I got it like minus 210 around there. I just thought it'd get a lot wider than that. But yeah, I like Poirier quite a bit. I think he's durable. I think he's the better boxer. I think the small cage is going to help him out for sure. And Dan Hooker's been through some wars his past couple fights, like Paul Felder. That was a war. Edson Barbosa, that was a war. How much more damage can this guy take? And Poirier is definitely going to deliver the damage. He's going to walk through fire. Has a good chin. I know he's been knocked. He's going to be knocked out twice, but Hooker's been knocked out once before. But yeah, I do like Poirier to win this fight. On the flip side of things, I will have some Dan Hooker. I'm going to be 100% owned to this fight, and I will have some lineups with both of them because listen to this. If there are no underdogs that win, and Dan Hooker and Poirier go to a decision, and Hooker lands, say, like 140 significant strikes, scores like 70 points in a loss, like that's going to be on the optimal lineup. I've seen it happen before with Poirier and Holloway and Joanna and Weili Zhang. I've seen it happen a couple times before in the past year and a half, 2 years. So I will have some lineups with Hooker and Poirier. And as for cash, I'm stacking it, no hesitation. I think it'd be foolish not to stack this fight. So yeah, I do like Poirier quite a bit. All right, let's see here. I had Hubbard and Tisha last week. Let's go. Nice plays, especially that Hubbard one. Yeah, that was pretty awful from Max. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I was expecting, Max to come out there, maybe have a bad gas tank, but I was not expecting that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty heavy on Poirier. I placed my biggest bet of the year on him, so hopefully it works out. Maybe hedge with Hooker in the first round because that's really where I see his path to victory. I see Hooker maybe getting him early, but other than that, Poirier should win this fight. Dustin's going to have so much significant strikes if this fight goes on. Yes, he will. He typically scores a lot, especially in decisions. So I think he's going to be the highest scorer on the slate if he does get that win. All right, so after that, I'm going to go over my favorite underdogs and my most confident picks of the whole slate, and then I'll get into some questions for about 5 minutes and then get out of here. Got a lot of stuff to do with NASCAR and stuff. Got NASCAR and MMA tomorrow, so that should be fun. So my most confident picks, I like Poirier quite a bit, pretty confident in it. Mike Perry, pretty confident in that. There's just a question mark surrounding him. Brendan Allen, honestly, I'm not confident in it. I think this fight could be a lot closer than the line indicates. Like, I think it's going to be hard for Allen to submit Daukaus here. Maybe he gets a ground and pound victory, but Greene, very confident in. I am, especially after those weigh-ins. It just boosted my confidence up to a lot more than it was. So might even place a straight bet on Greene if the line closes in a little bit more, just a little bit more to like minus 190. I will jump on that Greene line. I don't know why I would, but the line is coming in for some reason. Pena, pretty confident in, but I think Worthy does have a puncher's chance. Boser, not too confident in that. Woodson, really confident in this play. I'd be honestly shocked if Rosa won here. Sato, I like it a lot. After watching tape on Witt, I was impressed, but not too impressed. I think this fight, is set up good for Sato. I think Witt gets hit way too much, fights with his hands down. That's a bad combination for for Witt. Zalal, I don't love it, but it's a decent pick right there. Zalal. Griffin's very, very dangerous. And then Kate Hanson, not too confident in that, but I do think she gets it done. All right, and now my favorite underdogs, whether it's betting or DraftKings, probably more so DraftKings. I'm not betting any underdogs. I just don't really see a spot for any of them. But Hooker, I'll have about 40% on DraftKings, maybe slightly more. Might go 50-50 Poirier. I thought about that. But 60-40 Poirier Hooker is where I'd like to be. Gall, I'll have a small amount because, like I said, we don't know where Perry's head's at. Daukaus, I'm at about 15% Daukaus. Don't love it, but I think this fight is going to be a lot closer than people think. Villante, I was going to have some as like a low ownership play. I probably still will have some because I like targeting these low owned guys, but it's heavyweight. Anything can happen. I'd play both sides of this. Don't mind Villante. Worthy going to have a sprinkle. He has the puncher's chance. Boser, not the most exciting fighter, but I think he can hit value with a volume-based decision. Rosa not touching, maybe like 2%. Witt, I'll have a little bit because I do think he's going to be very low owned, and I do think if he takes down Sato, maybe he gets a decision, but don't see him getting a finish or anything like that. Zalaw, kind of an underdog. Now he's a favorite. I like him a lot in DraftKings, but I will have it with some Griffin because Griffin is very dangerous. And then Jinyu Frey as an underdog, I like a little bit on DraftKings. I don't think she's going to finish the fight. I don't think she's going to score well, but if no other underdogs win, I think she can make the optimal lineup, but it's a long shot. All right, so I'll spend the last 5 minutes or so going over some final questions here. Let's see here. I think Sato wins inside the distance. Minus 120 is good value. Not too bad. And Woodson by KO TKO prop will be better than the money line. Yeah. Sato I have here at plus 120 actually, which is absolutely insane. Thoughts on Poirier fight over 2.5 rounds at minus 150. I like that quite a bit. If it does finish early, I think it's going to be Hooker, and I hope that doesn't happen, but I do think Hooker can finish the fight early. But if it goes along over 2.5, I like Poirier quite a bit. So, yeah, I like the minus 150 there. I think it will probably go over 2.5 for sure, unless something crazy happens. Worthy is a live dog in this. Yeah, he's live. He's live in any fight. I just don't think he's a very skilled fighter. But he is live. He has the power to put out anybody, no matter who it is, even if it's minus 1,000 favorite Devontae Smith. Hooker got a takedown on Felder last. Yes, he did. Don't know if he's going to take down Poirier here. I do have lineups with Dustin and Hooker, so that's safe to do, right? I thought I was crazy. No, I'm going to do it for sure because I've seen it happen where it was on the winning lineup and like nobody did it. I know a lot of people did it for the Joanna and Zhang fight, but nobody really did it for the Poirier Holloway fight, and that was in the winning lineup. So that was pretty crazy to see. Poirier by knockout, a good prop bet, depending on the odds. What is it? Poirier by knockout. Let me check. Personally, I think he can win a decision or finish Hooker really late, like in the 4th or 5th round. But Poirier by knockout, plus 125. I don't mind it, but I think it'd be late or a decision there. Yeah, Jordan Griffin's going to be low owned. Everybody's on the law. I've seen. So he's going to be low owned, and he has a path to victory where he could get in the optimal lineup. So that's why I will be playing some Griffin there. Poirier Hooker over 2.5. Very good line there. Where do you watch tape? I'm not a fan of Fight Pass. Mostly Fight Pass or YouTube. Fight Pass is like $10 a month. It's not bad for as much as I watch. It's definitely worth it. Maybe parlay Sato, especially after this last minute change, where they just had a puncher's chance. Yeah, I was thinking about parlaying Sato maybe with Greene. I think that's plus money. I think it's like plus 118, which is a very good line. I would be surprised if Witt won, but anything can happen. Especially on one day's notice, that'd be very surprising there. So yeah, Sato could be parlayable for sure. Griffin at plus 111. It's not bad. It's not bad. I do think he's very dangerous and he could win. The sleeper is Witt. Probably he is one of the sleepers I'm looking at. Don't love it though, because he's not a finisher. He's a decision guy. So if he does win a decision, is it going to be enough to get on the optimal lineup? I don't know. Maybe gets a couple takedowns. Allen, Mike Perry, Poirier, all to win plus 300. Very good line there, but I don't know. It's tough. I think they all will win, but it's just a little iffy, especially with Mike Perry and Brendan Allen. Both these guys, Mike Perry don't know where his head's at, and Brendan Allen is going to be going against a very dangerous guy in Kyle Daukaus. Betting Hooker at plus 200. Yeah, it's not a bad line at all. Either side you're on. I took Poirier at like minus 210. Because I did think it would get wider, and I do like Poirier quite a bit. So if you're on Hooker, yeah, that's a great line to be on. If Gall gets Perry down, is it over, do you think? Can Perry explode out? The old Perry, I think he'd be fine if Gall did get him down. But, a Perry that has been, watching Netflix with his girlfriend, I don't know. He doesn't have a corner, so I don't know. I think if Gall does get Perry down, I think Perry could be in some serious trouble. 4 weeks until the GOAT Edmund Shabazian is back. I can't wait. Woodson not even worth a parlay at minus 500. Yeah, what is he? Minus 420. You could throw him in if you really want to, but yeah, you're right. Not much value in that line. Most confident parlay 3 or 4 fights. Probably Greene, Sato, Mike Perry, but even that's a little iffy. All right. Thoughts on Vanilla Gorilla? Already went over that a little bit. Sato is, but you have to match him with a good fight. Includes as well. Thank you for the live stream. Really enjoyed it. Thank you. All right, guys, that's about it. Hit an hour. It's not the best slate, but of course, I'm still going to go heavy because I'm an idiot. But hopefully get a takedown, and hopefully the winning prize, unlike the last 10-fight slate, is not shared with 80 people, which I don't think it is, because I do think there is some spots to get a little bit creative on this slate. There's going to be a lot of chalk on guys like Sato, guys like Woodson, Poirier, going to be very chalky. Get a little different. Try to get that winning lineup. Maurice Greene, like there's a lot of great plays and not many spots where you can really get different. But guys like Worthy, play the Hanson fight. Nobody's going to play those fights. Nobody's going to play the Boser or Lin's fight. I think those fights, especially on a 10-fight slate, they have about a 60% chance of ending up on the optimal lineup. So, but yeah, guys, that's about it for me. Make sure you like this video if you enjoy it or if it helped you out. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. Just recently hit 3,000 subscribers, so thank you guys for that. Really awesome. Couldn't have done that without you guys, but yeah, let's make some money. It's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a fun fight night. I think there's going to be a lot of finishes. I'd be surprised if like 70% of these fights went to decision. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't a lot of finishes on this fight, but all right, guys. Thank you, Dave. Good luck to you as well. No problem, Travis. Thank you guys for watching. That's about it for me. And of course, always check out my other content, lots of DraftKings content, my breakdown and all that. And you guys can check me out on Patreon. The link will always be in the description. Lots of good stuff on there. And that's about it, guys. And good luck on Saturday.